Hello, good afternoon. This is Gray from Wakazashi's Tea House over in Japan with a rare Monday off work. Yes, it's Monday here because we live in the future. What time is it? It's 1:04 p.m. and I'm really looking forward to talking about a rather harrowing but fantastic movie, All Quiet on the Western Front. To do this, I have a very special guest. It's my first time working with him. He's going to be a stranger to many of you, I think. Let me bring him in. His name is Zaxx, I think, and he's from Canada.
Konnichiwa. Great. It's nice to finally meet you. We don't talk all the time or anything.
I tell you, I feel kind of, what's the word? A bit strange because we're having almost like we're going out on a date or something, Zaxx. It's a private stream, just the two of us.
It is just us. Yeah, it's this is quite romantic. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you doing this as well, mate. I know you're busy.
Yeah.
And could you just tell us a little bit about your channel? I believe it has been blowing up over the last month or so.
Yeah, it's racking up quite a few subs. 20 over 22,000 now. And
That's amazing.
yeah, it's what it is, right? Look, the shorts and whatever. I'll take it. But right now I'm doing reviews of The Peripheral. Been watching it as soon as I can, doing live streams with Prophet the Dragon as it happens, and trying to use that Amazon Watch Party app, which is working for us for that. So it's something to at least learn going forward that it does work pretty well. So you can kind of sync up with other people and all watch at the same time legally without using Discord. Yeah. So yeah, I do that live streams every Wednesday right now. This week I've got Michelle from Force of Light's going to come on. Max is going to be on, and I'm not sure who else yet, but we're going to have a good show. Talking about action heroes, both the actors and actresses and characters.
That sounds awesome. Hey,
Yeah.
I was watching a little bit of Max's stream this morning. Well, this morning for me earlier on, so it's good to see him. He's looking very good. He's looking Genki. He's doing very well, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He went to see Jordan Peterson just, I think, was it, yeah, a couple days ago. I think a couple days
Oh,
ago.
wow.
Yeah, maybe Thursday. And so he was talking a bit about that. But hey, he's a good-looking guy, for sure, Gray.
He certainly is. Zaxx, I just need to let you know, and let whoever's watching as well, there's it would be today, wouldn't it? There's construction work going on outside, the field behind my house, so there might be a bit of background noise. It's quiet at the moment. I think they're on lunch break, so we'll see how it goes. So I might have to mute myself and just leave it up to you.
No problem. We got it. We got this, Gray. We got this.
We got this. Just say a quick hello to everybody in the chat. It's fantastic to see. We've got Jaden Hamilton, who says he saw this movie, thought it was okay. He prefers the 70s one, but yeah, he recommends it's worth your time. Blair the Blair, great to see you, mate. Okay, Blair the Blair says, I like this one more. That's good. Now, I haven't seen either the 1930s version or the 70s TV version movie. How about you, Zaxx?
I have not seen either, no. But I was looking forward to this one, and I would have probably watched the other one because I've had people recommend it to me, but then I heard this was coming out, and I thought, well, I'll wait.
Yeah, me too. I remember like when we heard about this and we were kind of getting excited because it looked amazing on the trailer. You know, it looks very realistic. They've taken a kind of Saving Private Ryan approach to it, haven't they? With just showing it to be, just harrowing and horrible, horrendous, like trench warfare. But before I start waffling, Nosferatu, great to see you. I know I keep wearing this just for you, you know, this top. It's because it is actually very cold here.
What's very cold for you, Gray? What's very cold?
Actually, it's not that bad. It was 10 degrees Celsius last night. It's 19 now, so it's about 60, 65, something like that.
Do you want to know what it is here?
Yeah, I'd love to.
It's 0.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, 0.
I forgot you lived on the North Pole.
I do. Yeah, 0. I'm wearing a t-shirt, so here we are.
Who else is here? So, Zaxx is in the chat as well. Great to see you, Zaxx. Thanks for dropping in. Jay, the Deep-Minded. Hi. Oh, thanks for popping over. That's cool. From Max's stream. And Shield
thanks,
Wall Dragons. Good to see you too.
Max was he let me promote the show tonight, so that during his show, which is awesome of him.
Oh wow. Okay, so Zaxx, without further ado, shall I just do a very brief introduction from the good old Wikipedia, which I always say is 100% true. You can believe everything that's written on Wikipedia, as you all know.
Yep.
Where are we? It's, of course, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a 2022 German epic anti-war film, it says. Well, it's a war film, based on the 1929 novel of the same name. There we go. Where are we? It's directed by Edward Berger. I'm not going to name the cast because I don't know any of them, but I did recognize some faces, Zaxx, maybe from Dark.
I did too. I was going to say the same thing. I meant to Google him, but I forgot. But yeah, I recognize the that general's, I don't know, whatever he is, waiter, best friend. I don't know what his job is, but he's always around the general with the mustache, right? That guy.
Yeah, that guy. The guy with the glasses, he's definitely been in. I've been watching quite a bit of German TV recently because it is very, very good, I think. So, yeah, you see this same kind of faces, don't you, turning up, of course.
Yeah. It's odd that they call it an anti-war movie and that, like, I mean,
yeah, that surprised me, yeah.
It's clearly not pro-war, but it's a World War I movie, and how could you show that war in any other way?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you're going to show the war as realistic, well, you might as well call every war movie anti-war.
Right. They're showing, and it was, but I really enjoyed it. It was 2.5 hours, so I didn't feel it was too long, though. I wouldn't have taken out, you needed the beginning and the end. Lots of symmetry there in the way that they told that story. It was all the same, kind of all at the end. It kind of replayed itself over for the most part. And in the middle, it was all the character stuff you needed to care about the people by the end.
That's right. They started with a very slow introduction where you see shots of beautiful nature. You see a family of foxes, don't you, like sheltering somewhere, and then suddenly, bang, we're on the trench. Well, in the trenches on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Michael, good to see you. Thanks. So, Zaxx, we got a raid from Max's stream. That's great timing. It's just lucky. It's very lucky. I know it's a busy time. I know Max is streaming too. I just wanted to take advantage of my day off and do a rare daytime stream with my favourite Canadian.
Aw. And Michael Salo's also Canadian, so you can see you like us equally if you want.
Jaden's saying he recommends everyone read the book. Yeah, that's a good point, mate. I haven't read the book. It's great. It has some boring parts in it, but it's such a mind-scraping experience. The ending still kind of sucks. Now, we're not going to give spoilers. I mean, you can't really spoil it, but we won't talk about the ending, Zaxx. We won't talk about what happens to the main characters. We'll just, I mean, you know what's going to happen in this movie, don't you? All quite the Western Front.
Yeah. It's, well, can I give one spoiler?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Germany loses, so.
Oh my God, really? Yeah. Wait a minute, I think I watched a different movie. Yeah, it's quite good the way they showed that. They go into a little bit of the detail about the ceasefire, the armistice, and the terrible conditions, basically, that were imposed on Germany, which a lot of people believed led to the Second World War, don't they?
It definitely did lead to the Second World War, I would say. It helped get a certain person into a certain position of power in order to start that war, because he managed to turn the people his way because of those conditions that created. And I'm surprised they didn't get into that as much. I thought they might dig deeper into that for this, but they kind of they touched on it. We kind of knew what it was, but some of the details of that were just that treaty was so heavy on them. Like, they had to pay all the costs of all the war. They basically funded France for years, and their money was worthless. It was not a good thing.
Okay, where are we? Let's have a quick look. So, what do I want to do? I mean, we can talk about the plot, but it's pretty obvious what happens in it. First of all, Zaxx, what would you say as is it a recommendation? Would you recommend it? I know it's a long movie, as we just talked about. It's 2 hours 20. I actually watched it in two halves. I probably could have sat down and watched it in one go, but it is very heavy. It's very hard at times. What do you think?
Yeah, it's I'd recommend it. I watched the first 2 hours, then I watched like the last 20, and it's a heavy film. It's very bleak. There's some good, hopeful character moments in the middle there, where you kind of think, okay, well, things seem quiet on the Western Front, and I thought that the soundtrack was really interesting. The way it would go heavy industrial and to cue you that it was about to ramp up again, and it would pull you out of that sort of serene moment of the countryside to, okay, here it comes. And that reminded me of Dark in a way, the show Dark.
I got, believe it or not, I got the latest Batman movie vibes, just from the sound, because he used a very similar and very simple theme, wasn't it? It was just like a dun, 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 something like that.
True, yep.
And speaking of derm to derm, here's the sex bots in the chat, Zaxx. What are we doing? We must be doing something right.
Yeah. They were probably
Okay.
waiting for Max to finish to come over here.
I wonder if they were on Max's stream too.
Maybe.
Yeah, as I say, like when I say hard, I mean it was hard to watch at times because, as you say, it is bleak. I mean, it's going to be bleak. It's a bleak story. It doesn't pull any punches with the realism, as we said. Like it's very similar to Saving Private Ryan in the fact that it shows bloody, horrible, violent, battle scenes where people are just going insane trying to stay alive.
Yep. Yeah, and there's like all the rules of war and the rules of combat that were being followed, and how like down to the technicalities they were. It was interesting to see that played out for me. Like the
Yeah,
actual armistice itself and when it was going to happen, and it was like very specific to a time, and it's like it's a bit like you play a sport, you play a physical sport. You might play rugby, and end of the game's over. You guys have been killing each other for the last hour, and now all of a sudden you're going for beers.
yeah, and I say we're not going to talk about the ending too much, but that was crazy what happened, wasn't it? One of the generals or one of the chiefs didn't want to go, like surrender basically without that final fight, so he ordered the troops to fight one more time, and he just like, no, come on, they're so close to the end. Can they not
Yep.
just get to the 11 o'clock on the 11th of November? There was 3 11s, wasn't there? That was a very interesting number there, using that when they signed the armistice. Sorry, when they stopped the war.
Yep. Yeah, the 11th. That's Remembrance Day here is November 11th. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
What is
same
it?
in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just called Veterans Day in the States because they have to be different.
See, this
But
is how clueless I am about history, Zaxx. I have no idea whether did the states, the American forces, did the Canadian forces fight in World War One on that, like on the Western Front, or were they somewhere else?
no, they definitely fought on the Western Front.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Americans joined late. Canadians were in it because we were a Commonwealth country, so we didn't have a choice.
Right.
Like you guys were in,
Right.
so we were in. And my great grandfather fought over there, and I found a recording which I think is really cool. Of they did a study with him in like the late '70s, or and he, as part of it, they interviewed him on these like reel to reel tapes, and he talks about all of his experiences in World War One, and I managed to get the tapes. I'm trying to clean them up now because the audio was pretty bad, and just so I can really hear it from his voice, what it was like to be over there and to go through that. It's surprisingly positive. Like his
No way.
he's kind of chipper when he talks about it. It's not like you would expect. And he's telling the same story. It's just like a bunch of stuff that happened. Very kind of, and I think part of that is because back then people were generally more rugged and used to a
Yeah.
bit more hardship than we are. So
Yeah.
it was a bad patch, and he was more focused on what happened when they came back, because Canada for some reason got a reputation for being like especially vicious in that war, and so when our army came back, they kind of got attacked in the press here.
No way. I had no idea about that, and that
Yeah,
sounds fascinating about your grandfather's story. That sounds really
everywhere
good.
else they were like applauded, especially we got medals in France and England, and they come back here and they're like treated like crap.
Ah, dear me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It's
Any,
reminding me, Zax, of there's a Peter Jackson production that he did where he cleaned up old footage, didn't he, of the First World War? I think it was like showing something like "Lest We Forget," something like that. It's called. Sorry, probably got the title wrong, but I watched that last year, and that was incredible. It was little things that caught my eye, like how starving, how hungry the soldiers were all the time. They were
yeah.
quite happy to eat like moldy bread if they had it. It didn't matter, whatever they could get. And you see a little bit of that in this, don't you? You do see them like they look so hungry.
And so much of this of the decision of whether you lived or died had nothing to do with anything you did. It's just like pure dumb luck.
Thanks for that,
Not grow.
Shelby. They shall
Yeah.
not grow old. That's the one. Yeah, very good. It's worth checking out as well. It's really, really good. The way he's like restored it, the picture, it's in color, of course, and it just looks like another world almost.
Yeah. And you can actually find colorized photos of like the trenches essentially. And I think they did a good job in this film of having it look. It looked very similar to those recolorized photos, especially like the French with their blue, which was it really did stand out in the movie to me, at least on my TV, and And in the photos, it really pops as well. That blue color.
It certainly does. I'm going to try attempt to share the screen. I'm not going to play the movie Zaxx, but we can like just sort of scroll through it
Yeah.
and show some of the scenes. Yeah, here we go. See what happens. Okay, that's working. That's showing all right. So I say it opens very beautifully. You get a nice, what do you call it? A nice scene of nature, and then the choir, and you see pictures of foxes, and then it just goes like straight onto the, where are we? Actually, I can't I can't move this forward. What's going on? Oh dear.
Oh yeah.
So bear with you 1 second. Here we go. There, this is it. Yeah, for example, this scenes like this kind of blow your mind, don't they? I mean, it goes on, but I didn't even knew they put them into coffins. It's a kind of a dark thing to talk about, but I just thought they basically buried people, in landfills. But little details like this really, really like
Yeah.
woke me up to, what do you call it? The organization that must have gone in, even within this crazy like chaos and anarchy. They still had to take care of the dead. They still had to try and get food to the soldiers. They had to try and repair used uniforms, reuse them for new soldiers.
Yeah, and the having to go sort of scrounge to the countryside to find food, or else you just didn't eat because your food wasn't getting to you.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
So Zaxx, the movie focuses on say Germany. It's like is it Austria-Hungary, Bavaria against the French. You don't really see what we would consider the Allies. You don't see any British soldiers. You don't see American or Canadian. It's just, I think, basically to simplify it, French and German. What
Yeah.
did you think about that? Could you tell the difference between them? Sometimes I wasn't sure who was who.
Just the uniforms, and I think that also brings it home to me, and it reminds me of the story of the Christmas truce. Have you heard that story?
Yes, I have. Yeah, go for it. Can you do a quick summary of it?
Yeah, in 1914, sort of both sides decided to take a day off the war and ended up sharing food and drink and having a football match. And it didn't go over well with the commanders the next day, but it's the kind of thing
No.
that could happen. And you could see in the end and the beginning that the people who were fighting each other had nothing really against each other. It wasn't like World War II where there's a bit more evil involved. This was just sort of generalized chaos and all these kids being forced into the situation where it's you or me, and I have nothing against you, but I don't want to die, and there's no option of checking out early.
Yeah, it's a great story that it's kind of almost sounds like something that's been made up, but yeah, we get told about it in the UK as well. We're told that they played a game of football or something as
Yeah.
well. If that's the right war I'm thinking of, not World War Two. It's World
No.
War One, isn't it?
Yeah, it was on the Western Front, like right in the front line. The two sides
Right.
played soccer in the middle, the football in the middle. They traded gifts with each other. They traded prisoners back and forth, so they freed prisoners from each other, and they buried their dead without shooting at each other. So it was kind of a big deal. And I think it was hard for people to get back into killing each other the next day. Because they have so much in common.
Yeah. That's part of the insanity of war, isn't it? Where you go from in 1 minute you've got like a soldier bayoneting somebody to death, and then suddenly you're playing football, sharing drinks, like singing songs. It's like how do you deal with that? What kind of mental toll must it have taken on people? You were saying that people were more rugged, they could
Yeah,
bear more
I think
things,
so.
back then. Yeah.
And I think that so what happened was there was more of these things that happened throughout the war, of these truces. And then it was so much that by 1916 it had to come down hard on both sides that you can't do this. Like if you do any more of this, and you're going to get a bullet from your own side, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there was that as well, wasn't there? Of course, there must have been
Yeah.
people who, didn't want to fight, who refused, or
Oh.
even when they got there, they were just like, no, I can't do anything. Scary. Okay, I'll just stop sharing for a moment. There we go.
Well, yeah. So Daniel's talking about the Christmas truce spontaneously occurring, and I think, I think that's right. And I think it started with Christmas carols. If I could be mistaken on that, but like both sides were kind of singing, and I think that's kind of what started that whole day of, not killing each other, was the songs. I think that's how it started, and yeah, it was spontaneous. It's too bad they couldn't have just stopped then,
Yeah.
which was
I know.
the fear of the people in charge.
One of the crazy
Hey.
things about the movie that you we get told, Zaxx, is that throughout those 4 years, they hardly advanced. It was like meters, wasn't it, or something? The front,
Yeah.
the trench. It's just crazy. All that for what? Just for... How we do
That's the danger of alliances, these large alliances.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of how it plays out like that. Yeah, so Michael Salas had him right. Okay, cool. Thanks, Michael.
Blair shouting bots. Okay, I'll have a quick look at that. We can deal with those. Okay, thanks. Zaxx, you star. Not only are you a guest on the stream, you're my moderator too. You're deleting the spam bots. I tell you, they've been following me ever since I was on Salty Stream, I think. I'm just saying.
Oh. Well.
No, I'm joking. And good point here from Daniel. He thinks that Wonder Woman, the movie, the first one, did a great job of showcasing the trench warfare. Yeah, it wasn't as like horrifying as this, but it was good to see that. I like that kind of First World War setting.
Yeah, and the at least it did show some of it, and it got people to ask questions about it too. And I guess it would be nice to have superheroes and be a little bit easier to finish those wars, as opposed to trenches, because that's like just the disease involved in there. That's a bit much. Like, so the story that I heard from my great grandfather was that he used to volunteer to do bonus stuff all the time. I don't know why. I would never do that, but he would go and like get wood when they're supposed to be on their like day off and stuff like that. And so he went off one day to do that, and because of that, he missed. I guess they got the Spanish flu outbreak. Part of the army did, and as from the war, as a result of the war, and he managed to dodge that because he was out doing extra chores. So like it could just happen to you. Anything, you wrong place, wrong time, wrong ditch, wrong water.
One of the things again that stuck out for me was it is so dated, but the weaponry was still like lethal, wasn't it? You saw the machine guns like taking out so many of them when having to charge. They're charging at times with just a rifle and a bayonet. Sometimes was it the German soldiers, Zaxx? They pulled out some kind of, I thought it was a shovel, a mini shovel, and they were using that to like stab people. That was a crazy scene.
Yeah, that was a shovel. Yeah.
God. Attacked, killed by shovel.
Yeah, at least it could have been. I think the Russians probably had it a bit worse, but equipment wise, but yeah, it's still it comes down to like in this phase of war, still a lot of man-to-man, face-to-face, combat, where now that probably is fairly rare, I would presume, but then it was still kind of how things ended up, other than the machine guns, which were just lethal. Like running across open space with that, it's just you're rolling the dice, and you have to be very lucky to get across there long enough to maybe die in the trench. No thanks.
Exactly, it is crazy. It's crazy luck, isn't it? It comes down to that, and yeah, you wonder how they did it, how they made it, how anyone survived when you see scenes like that.
And yet, good trench foot in the chat. Let's talk about that in the chat. And yes, that was the number one problem.
Huge problem, yeah. Jaden Hamilton is dropping again cool comments about the book. So it's the first book he read about World War One, and those German uniforms are still dope looking. I know what you mean, man. It's basically just a modified version of the World War One outfit, the modern one. Really, I didn't know that. And Shelby, I'm the same. I haven't read the classic. I've only heard about it. So yeah, maybe it's worth a read.
So Shelby asked about the mustard gas, and they did get into gas. They did show some of the results of the gas, but they never really got into discussing it with you. If that they showed you, they didn't tell you really.
No, there was a scene where they've got them like practicing putting on the gas masks. And Zaxx, didn't you think those gas masks? They looked like they weren't going to stop anything.
No, nothing. It's like, yeah. I mean, we're used to wearing masks now. And these looked about as effective as those other ones did. I'll say that. Really,
no comment.
No,
having to wear a nappy.
Those guys couldn't breathe. Oh, nice.
Every day.
Those guys couldn't breathe. Like, yeah. Even wearing that, which I guess is better than breathing in gas, but it's early on, but it's not really a spoiler. One guy has to wear it the whole time because he screws up. That's a punishment too.
That was so mean, wasn't it, on him, the poor guy? Yeah, he made a mistake, and he's like, okay, put your mask on. And now, and they had to run with it, and he's almost like asphyxiating, isn't he? He's almost dying in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
trench foot is awful. It's why soldiers would wear 3 layers of socks, says Nosferatu. Yeah, I don't know that much about it. I can just imagine what it means. But the conditions, the endless rain, everywhere was wet and muddy and slippery. Everything's rotting, isn't it? Basically, any kind of food wouldn't last more than I don't know what. They were drinking water from the puddles, the dirty water because they had nothing else. I wonder which had the worst conditions. Which of the forces were the worst supplied. I don't know.
Good question. I bet the chat knows. I would think it's probably similarly garbage, but I think that this movie showed it to look like the Germans had it worse near the end. I don't know if that's true or not, because they could still supply their lines as well. I have no idea, but they looked to be less well supplied, at least from what we could see.
Daniel's saying that Zaxx's alter ego could not survive the black smoke when he was commanding on artillery crew. Oh, is he talking about your logo, your mask?
Oh, maybe. Zorro? I don't know.
Zorro! And Shield was saying the first ones you had to pee on them to activate the chemicals, get the protection. No way. Activated by your...
That's 1900s trolling. I'm sure it wasn't, but it'd be funny if it was.
Yeah, I bet you didn't have to, but they just made them do it anyway because they're just insane.
Yeah.
Would you rather fight in World War I or the Revolutionary War with Washington himself, asks Jaden Hamilton, Zaxx. Wow.
Good question.
Can you say no to both?
I would say Revolutionary War. If I had to pick. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to pick
less
it.
Machine guns and less foot rot.
If I was American and it was in my own country, I'd much rather be there than on some ridiculous battlefield in the middle of nowhere. Good to see you, awesome one. The Belgian beer was good. It was too good, as you can tell by my voice and maybe my demeanour today. Mrs. Wakizashi was just laughing at me saying, "You look terrible, Gray." It serves you right. And she's right.
Love the encouragement, right?
Okay, that was a War of the Worlds reference. Look at Daniel. Nice one. I see. I got you, mate. Okay, Zach, so back to the movie. Just as a general thing, what did you think of the look of it? How it was shot, how it was filmed, the lights? I thought some of the scenes were very beautiful.
I thought it was beautifully shot all the way through.
Yeah.
It looked great. There were probably effects, but I didn't notice them. Everything looked real, looked rugged, looked worn. It's the opposite of Rings of Power or anything on Amazon, mostly involving fantasy, where the characters end up being so much cleaner than they really should be. Even the teeth. Did you notice the teeth, Gray?
Yes, I did. That was one thing that stuck out.
It wasn't even the Brits with the teeth.
Why are we so infamous for our terrible teeth?
I don't know, but the Germans had you beat on this one, seems like.
I think I blame it on Mike Myers. Is it Mike Myers and Austin Powers? Blame it on him.
I don't know.
Wait a minute, isn't he Canadian, Zaxx?
Yes, he is. But those aren't his real teeth. Come on, Gray.
One thing about the movie I meant to tell you is, I don't know if you know, this is from Wiki again, it premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September this year. Did you hear much about it before it came out on Netflix? Because I didn't hear hardly anything.
I just saw the trailers come up on YouTube and watched them, and that's how I knew about it. If it was covered at Toronto, Toronto's kind of its own thing here, really. Toronto, Montreal, it's all kind of over there. And they don't kind of, no offense, Michael Sadler, because I think you're generally in that region. We don't, it's kind of like a very different country, depending on where you are here. It's so big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very visually striking, of course. I mean, at times it's horrible because they're showing scenes like this where you've just got rot and death everywhere. It's depressing, it's raining, it's filthy, and they're having to, I don't know, just fight through it all and try and survive. It must have had a crazy effect on your mind, Zaxx, but you were saying your grandfather spoke about it as though, maybe that was, looking back, I don't know.
See, my great-grandfather fought in this war, and he's the one I have the recording from, and then my grandfather and my great-uncle fought in the Second World War, and he would never talk about it. Second World War, I didn't get really much from him until close to when he passed away. But yeah, this one, it was just kind of and I remember him talking about it when I was very little too. He just he wasn't really down about it. I don't know how to explain it, but he almost died a couple times, but he thought it was kind of funny. Like he got saved by his canteen once from shrapnel, and it was like,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Wow.
stuff like that. He's just didn't really bother him. Um, Maybe he was a psychopath. That's possible. I don't know, but
I know.
he was totally fine with it. His story is kind of, it's not a fun story, but he's not having to force his way through it.
Yeah. Daniel's got a question for us. How did it compare with the film 1917? Daniel saw that in the theaters and he was blown away by it.
For me, 1917 is better. It's very different. 1917 was more of it's more of a spectacle, and so it was filmed that way, and you don't know as much about the characters. You get to know them a little bit, but I mean, let's face it, the guy's running almost the entire time, so you're not getting a lot of character moments and conversations. You get to know who he is, but not in the details, and in this you get a bit more of that, I think. So that's a nice part of it. And when you don't have the budget they would have, or the crew that they would have for 1917, so for this, I think they did a good job with what they had, and it wasn't all battle, and that was, I think, part of the flavor too.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't see it in the theater, unfortunately. I saw 1917 just on my PC, but I thought it was great. Yeah, really good. It's, as you say, it's not really about the characters, is it? It's just about the whole experience. You kind of dropped in and you're almost living it real time. It's very strange. There were people that were saying, Zaxx, that it was all done in one shot, in one take.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that. Very clever how they did that.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of the gimmick. It was made to look like that, and this, you couldn't do that because there's lots of sitting around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Steve here, Prophet Dragon. Hey, Steve.
We've also got Nerdporial as well. Nerdporial
Whoa.
Lifeform in the chat. Great to see you. Prophet of the Dragon, Steve. Zaxx, I joined part of their Nerdporial's Spaceballs watch party today. It was so much fun. It really cheered me up. It was good medicine for my hangover earlier today.
Oh, great. You and your hangovers.
What am I like? I'm just an idiot, aren't I? I never learn, do I? Ladies and gentlemen, don't drink too much. Just say that.
We both know it's worth it, though. So you'll do it again. I would too. Nothing wrong with it, Gray.
No, of course. Read the book in grade school, says Prophet. Wouldn't do it again. Okay, yeah, Jaden was talking about that. He's saying it is a bit boring in parts, of course, but it's very, as a document, as a historical document, very, very fascinating to read from the German perspective as well.
Yeah, it is good to see that side of it. Those kids they thought they were coming back in 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It'll be over by Christmas. Wasn't that? Didn't they keep saying that every year? Every day, every year?
I think I might have pulled a hammy before that physical.
Pulled a hammy.
Yeah. I can't possibly go to war right now. Maybe put some ice on it in a couple of weeks, we'll see.
Sorry, I've actually come down with a case of man flu. I'm not able to to go to war.
Yep.
I'm dying, really. Speaking about that, Zaxx, the main character, he's 17 years old. The guy that we see, it's all done from his perspective, basically. 17, joining up with being convinced it's going to be fantastic and wonderful, romantic, going out and fighting, fighting for your country, the patriotism and all that. And then, of course, like most realistic war movies, he gets his eyes open to the horrors.
Fairly quickly, and I want to say too, without spoiling it, there's a really interesting technique they use in this film, which is, I don't know if they did it in the other versions, but there's a complete and total symmetry. You'll see it when you watch it from the beginning to the end, and you can see different characters in different roles and taking on different roles, but it's almost the exact same set of scenes with just different people doing different things, and it sort of shows the cycle that everyone was going through at that time. I thought that was well done. I like that.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
No, I like the way the attention to detail for that was, I thought, you didn't have to have that in there, and I think that what they did, it gives you something extra.
Yeah, it's a good point. Sorry, I'm just saying, can you hear that background noise? It's not too bad.
No.
Okay, good. It's probably just in. I've got the windows closed, everything's shut, but there's a big, what do you call it? A shovel car, they say in Japanese, a digger digging up the field. I think they're actually reconstructing the set, Zaxx. They're trying to make the
Oh,
Western
really?
Front behind my house in
Digging
Japan.
a trench.
What's going on?
Digging a trench.
Digging a trench. I'm probably going to bury me in it as well. I think Mrs. Wakizashi might later.
Well, I mean, if you keep coming home hungover all the time, I mean, eventually she might kill you. Yeah.
It's not all the time. It's just once a month. It's like,
I
yeah, you
know.
say that every time. Shield Wall. I saw the TV miniseries with John Boy from the Waltons when I was at school. Okay, good old John Boy.
I'm kind of surprised that we didn't cover this in school, like where I am, because we did cover quite a bit of war stuff, but
Yeah.
not this. Maybe they didn't want to give us the Germans' perspective. I don't know.
It could be that, couldn't it? Yeah, that's a good point. I'm the same. Of course, you all know that I grew up in the UK, and we just basically touched on it a little bit. We were more focused on more modern history, like we talked about. We were taught about the Second World War, then up to the Vietnam War. Even we learned quite a lot about that, but we did not. Yeah, we did not get to know much about the first. Strange.
Well, it was like the Second World War is easier to teach because it's to Westerners, because you can just say these guys are really bad and we're really good and here's what happened. But to explain World War One, there's a lot more involved, a lot of layers, and it's like it'd be like if Marvel tried to tell that story, it would probably be garbage. So
Oh God, yeah. Could you imagine the Marvel version of World War One?
jokes,
Cracking jokes all the time. Yeah,
yeah,
like
breaking the fourth wall.
an army of female, incredibly powered soldiers with lightsabers.
Daniel's asking about Canada's involvement. And yes, we were very involved right from the very beginning. We were a Commonwealth country, so we were right in there right away. And like we, people just like in this movie, underage, signed up and volunteered and went to war anyway. It was kind of they felt it was their duty, and they're still like we were still quite tied to the crown at that point. I think emotionally as well as a country, way more so than the States, because you guys like threw off the British Empire. We didn't. We were like, we let you guys do the hard work, and we're like later, we sort of broke up over time, kind of, like you stop texting, and eventually it's like you see each other and you're like you kind of do the wave, but you don't go over and talk, and then you realize, okay, yeah, we're done. It was like that. You guys had a big blow up fight.
Thanks, Steve. Prophet, I appreciate you dropping in, mate. You have a good night, have a good sleep, a good rest. Steve's been killing it as well with live streams recently. He's going it. I think Nosferatu kind of pressured him into doing Final Fantasy VII gaming streams. I'm only joking, Nos. I'm only joking.
Live streams and donut cream is all he's talking about right now on his channel, Prophet.
Oh my God, he started a whole trend, hasn't he? You can see the memes all over the place and some great clips as well. I'm waiting for yours, Zaxx.
he was featured early on Magic Meg stream today. So
oh really?
I mean, it's only going to get bigger now. Sorry, Steve. That's what she said. Also.
Okay, where are we? So as you were saying, Zaxx, you're right about it is easier to kind of probably teach about the Second World War because you've got the very clear defined sides. But this was a difficult one, wasn't it? Because of you had the Imperial German Army, but I'm not even sure who were the part. I need to check this on Wikipedia. I'll be one sec, Zaxx. Can you vamp for a minute?
Yeah, it was. I think it was Croatians. The Black Hand killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which he was connected to Austria, who's connected to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, who's connected to Germany, and so they all declared war on each other, and then that tripped all the other alliances, and so France is involved, and of course France right away starts to lose because that's kind of their deal. And then everyone else has to come and bail them out, which is also kind of their deal. So yeah, that's kind of how it got going. It got kicked off, and it wasn't like there was an overly aggressive, because the German guy with the mustache later on, he was gobbling back territory that they lost in this war. And then so there was that extra aggression from a country. This was just kind of a thing that happened. And that was a wrong turn because the guy tried to blow him up, screwed it up, and then the driver got lost and turned around, and I think he was getting coffee, the guy who assassinated Ferdinand, and was surprised to see he was right there, and then I think he shot him. That's how that happened. So that kicked it all off.
It's a very bizarre what do you call it, supposedly historical event, isn't it, Zaxx? It just sounds like a made-up story, but I don't want to go down that road.
Right.
Just very briefly, it says here the Allied powers. So you had, here we go, led by France, surprise, surprise, France, the UK, Russia, Italy, Japan, and the United States. It doesn't mention Canada, but they are Canada as well. Against, where are we? The Central Powers of Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria, and their colonies. Wow, very complicated. Yeah. Please forgive my crappy history knowledge, by the way. Really bad at history at school.
It's even further complicated by the fact that a lot of the royalty of these countries were related to each other.
This is true. Here we go, Daniel. He says he imagines UK students get way more World War I history than we used to in the States, pre-2000. I doubt anyone studies any history today. Well, as I was saying, Daniel, where I just went to a normal public school, not a private school, so I just got taught very basically about it. It was hardly touched on. As me and Zaxx talked about, we focused more on the Second World War.
For the U.S., I don't know when they got involved. I thought it was fairly late, but I know that their involvement was kind of put things over the edge for Germany and the rest of their alliance to kind of give up, because then now it was like you couldn't match that industrial strength from the U.S. and just the amount of people they could pump out and send over. It was they couldn't hold for much longer, and so that's why they gave up. But part of the surrender issue that with the Treaty of Versailles, and how Germany kind of got the raw end there, especially, was they had them retreat, so they pulled all the way back, and then they closed off a lot of the ports anyways, and they didn't kind of follow the other side of the agreement, and they didn't put a lot of things in place till long after. So Germany suffered extra, which was just the civilians. So it really set things up for the mustache guy.
Interesting comment here from Shelby AC. They say, my husband said the French Marines are still like that. They complained about the coffee, were negative about every mission, and even bailed on an operation.
It's I mean, it's a joke. Like, we do joke about it, but it also is what happens. It also is what happens. And I mean, Napoleon aside, it's they're used to getting rolled over, and that's just what they seem to do. And their planning is horrible too. It's kind of like the Swiss cheese defense they've got. So the U.S. got involved in declared war in 1917. So the war had been going for a while, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. Yeah. Whenever the U.S. gets involved, it's kind of going to be over soon. Is usually how it goes.
We used to have this. We used to have a joke, back in school, secondary school. What do you call it? High school, and it went something like this. It's like the Americans were late to the First World War. They were even later to the Second World War, so they're going to make up for time and start the Third World War.
Oh, God.
Dear me.
No, we don't want that.
No, I'm just trying to get back for the negative comments about my teeth. No, I'm joking, guys. I'm joking. Go for it, Zaxx. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's true, and that's at both wars. But the Second World War was even funnier, sort of, because the Germans would just go around their forts. And then they would give them up because, well, what are you defending now? Because they just didn't care. That was the blitzkrieg. They would just go around and keep going. And so they would just surrender because there was no one coming to fight you. They didn't want your fort. They didn't need your fort. The forts were pointless, like the Maginot Line was.
Yeah. Wow, I just felt the earth move under my feet then, Zaxx. I think they're going for it with the digger outside at the moment. It's like, wow.
They're coming for you.
Is it an earthquake? No, it's not, thank God. Nosferatu, how dare you go to Mags' stream to make donut comments? But good to have you back, mate. And Jaden, I don't remember the last time I had a donut. I tell you what, Zaxx, they could have done with some donuts on the Western Front, couldn't they? The poor guys over there.
Oh, God, yeah. And then you have it, this isn't a spoiler, because there's also, you get scenes of the German negotiators and the French, and they're complaining about the freshness of the pastry at one point. Is this a day old? Like, and juxtaposed with starving men drinking bloody puddle water.
That was a obviously very intentional and well done, wasn't it? Yeah, you basically jumped from one scene to the next, and oh God, seeing them like complaining about the freshness of their rolls, unbelievable. But there we go. The Americans only saw combat for about 6 months, says Shieldwall. Shieldwall, I really appreciate you dropping the knowledge, mate. That's cool, thank you. And Nosferatu is saying that people love to blame the US for everything. For good reason, really. But you all love our support. We love you. I love you all, mate.
Yeah,
I thought the UK gets blamed these days, don't we, for everything? We're the bad guys.
it's true.
We
Yeah,
always were, secretly. We're not
you
so
guys are
secret.
getting more heat now. The U.S.
We are.
I like Americans. I have, yeah. We, at least where I am, we don't have any negativity towards you guys at all. In fact, thanks. And we're also sorry because that's what we do here.
America, fuck yeah. How's that song go
There you
again?
go. Yeah, Doc Vader. Imagine Online was World War II. That was their big plan. It didn't work because you can go around it. So that's what they did.
Okay, there we go. The forts were a holdover from World War One doctrine. They were obsolete before they even finished them. Interesting.
It's the French.
So Zaxx, again, not really spoiling anything, but there was one scene that had me tearing up. I was, not like pouring with tears, but I had a big lump in my throat. I felt it, man. I felt it probably because I'm a bit hungover as well. But there's a scene involving two soldiers in a huge crater, and it just shows like the madness, the horrible things they had to do, or they thought they had to do, and then a kind of moment of realization. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they were stuck in a crater, which was a common thing because you would use the craters for cover.
Yeah.
Craters were almost always filled with water because it was always muddy and raining. And Paul comes across a French soldier, and they end up fighting in the crater. And he stabs the French soldier multiple times, and they did such a good job with this scene for me because they let it play out over so much time that you really felt that you felt Paul come down from the adrenaline rush of fighting for your life to start to become a person again and look at this other person, and then he makes another attempt to kill him, which is like a really sloppy attempt because he doesn't want to listen to him anymore. But then he, in the end, comes around to trying to help him, and it takes the right amount of time to me.
That's a great point. We talk a lot these days, don't we, about things being a bit ponderous and slow paced, but you really needed that for this scene. It's a huge moment, a huge character moment. It shows, the what do you call it, the change in emotions from from one side to the other. Just God, he must have been going insane. But about what I was talking about before, Zaxx, the uniforms look very similar, don't they? I mean, I know they're covered in crap, they're covered in mud, but it looks like they're the two of the same soldiers from the same side. It's crazy.
Yeah, it does. It's just the helmet is kind of the thing that you can use watching this film to tell them apart sometimes, especially in the trenches. It's just the helmet. It's tragedy, all of it.
Oh, we got a recommendation from Derek. Thanks, Derek. Great to see you. I haven't seen this version yet, but the OG from 1930 is his favourite war movie. Wow. That's a good recommendation. I have to check it out.
And believe it or not, Flaccid Phoenix raves about that movie. So, of all people, he thinks it's great. He loves the story. So, he's recommended to me to watch before, and so I was gonna, but then I watched this one instead, which I should probably go back and watch the 31, but because the miniseries, in the chat actually, if people have seen it, I know that. So, was it good? I know John Boy Walton was in it, but was it worth watching? Because when I think TV miniseries from the 70s, I don't think quality. So.
No, I read very briefly about it, Zaxx, and I think it says, I never get his name right, but you'll know him. Is it Ernie Borgnine?
Ernest Borgnine.
That's it, you got it, Ernest Borgnine, there we go. He's in it. I mean, he was in all sorts of things, but his name stuck out. But I haven't seen that version. I haven't seen 1930s version. I was very surprised to hear Flaccid's a big fan of it, because it doesn't have any nudity in it, does it, Zaxx, as far as I know?
Not in the 30s, probably not.
No. Well, maybe. Who knows?
This one
I'm just kidding.
Doesn't. There's a scene that they never really explain, but you kind of see what happens, which is interesting. So they could just kind of wander off and come back, it seems like, in part of the war.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was a thing.
That was strange, wasn't it? It was good to, again, because you do need a break, because it is relentless. The trench warfare is relentless. So they have these quiet moments where you're kind of thinking, have they paused? Have they paused the war? Or did they get did they get like recreational leave at all? You know, could they do that, or was it just a kind of a pause in the fighting? Wasn't clear about that. And Zaxx, the scene with the farmhouse as well, where they're basically just trying to steal an egg, or get a goose or something, get something to eat because they're starving. Again, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but they took risks. Even trying to get food, not from soldiers, but from angry farmers too.
Yeah, they did, and they didn't. They did it in a way that, they could have easily made the Germans seem more evil in those scenes.
Oh yeah,
they went out of their way not to have them still be humanized. And some of the scenes where the soldiers are talking to each other, forming those bonds, are really well done. And they talk about things like, do I really ever want to go home? Can I ever really go home? Would it be better if I just stayed here with you guys as opposed to going back to real life, because they've so conditioned to this and they know what it's done to them. And that speaks a bit about, the PTSD that we now understand now that we didn't then, that they would have called shell shock.
Shell shock, yeah, that's a good point. I know, right? It's weird, isn't it? It's of course the extreme conditions. It brings the people together because they, of course, they're fighting for each other. They're trying to keep each other alive as well. It's not just about yourself, and the idea that no one gets left behind. You don't leave a man behind. We talk about these days, but yeah, these people probably had the closest relationships in their lives in this insane war.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. Wow, so Michael is saying the original won 2 Oscars. No way, so they had Oscars back then, back in 1930.
When Oscars meant something, probably.
Yeah. Oscars? What's that about? No idea.
Yeah, no. It felt like a feature film. So it was a Netflix movie, but it didn't feel, it in no way felt cheap or toned down. It was a full feature film experience. Like, you would go to the theater to see this and you would enjoy it there too. So in no way did it look like it was a TV movie.
It says here, Zaxx, briefly on Wikipedia, in August this year, the film was announced as Germany's submission for the Academy Award for Best International Feature Film at the 95th Academy Awards. So there we go. You wonder why they didn't give it a proper cinematic release, though. It deserves to be seen on the big screen, wouldn't you say?
I would see it on the big screen. Yeah, I wonder, was it produced by Netflix or did they buy it?
Good point. Let's have a quick look.
Because that would make a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't say that I can see. Just it was released to streaming on Netflix after premiering in Toronto, the International Film Festival, September. Released on October 28th, so it is very, very recent. It just came out.
Yeah, probably they had to do it in probably some theaters to get it entered to competitions.
Yeah, okay, it says here, I've just got it, mate, thanks. The film was expanded to select theatres from October 14th. So It had Toronto, it was in Paris as well, in Paris. That's about it. It doesn't say. And then it got the worldwide Netflix launch at the end of October.
Well, and this goes like, this is almost, I would say, this in 1917 should be kind of watched, not at the same time because, people need to sleep, but you should probably watch. These are good examples of movies you should watch both versions of, see both sides, and because they both do a fairly good job of not painting one side as something it's not. They're fairly honest, portrayals of what would have happened. Yeah, when Oscars mattered, for sure. And that goes with things like the Band of Brothers series. I think everyone should watch. The Pacific, I think everyone should watch. I think you should make your kids watch them too, because that history is not being covered at all in school the way it should be anymore. So they don't understand like what people have gone through to get to the point where you can, complain about somebody misgendering you, essentially, right? Like, that's not a thing that people had time to worry about then. It is a result of the sacrifices that we can complain about minor things. Like if my air conditioning's broken, it's a really bad day for me. But these guys, no air conditioning.
Yeah, like if you forget to charge your phone, or you leave your phone at home and go to work, it's like the end of the world, isn't it? It's crazy how things have changed. Maybe we need another war, Zaxx. We all need to join up to sort ourselves out and to remember how to be human again. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll skip it.
Great comment from Jay the Deep Minded, says that her husband served in Afghanistan and said war is a lot of waiting around and then it kicks off out of nowhere. She says this film captures that aspect well. Yeah, the quiet moments were well played, weren't they? And you do need that. You need that break from the crazy action scenes, the battle scenes.
And I know in on the Allied side at least that they would get breaks. Like you would be pulled back from the front, you'd get a week off, and in some cases you go all the way back to England and then come back and fight again. So I don't know how they'd get you to come back and fight again. I might go missing.
Oh
But
my God, yeah.
but that's what they would do. So you get a bit of a respite, maybe not a ton and not consistent, but you would get that opportunity to get off the line, and they'd go back on the line again.
There we go. Shield Wars, just saying that. Zaxx, thanks a lot for that. They rotated them to the rear once a month from the front. They did 1 week in the front trench, and each week after
There you go.
they rotated further back till they basically cycled back to the front trench again. That must have been so demoralizing. Just the thought that you have to go back to it, but I guess you really learn to appreciate the moments you have. In life, the moments you're alive when you've got that looming ahead of you in the future. Thanks, Shield Wall.
Yeah, thank you. Well said. I think that
Okay.
like that's the kind of thing that needs to be explained too. Like the idea that you would like war is like that, and it's as vicious and it's front line and it's in your face, and then you're expected to go do something else and chill out for a week and then go back and be ready to do it again. Like the mindset that it would take for these people to be able to be successful in that and then come out of that and have normal lives. Um, yeah, it's almost, I don't think it's worse than being stuck there all the time, obviously, but it's something.
That's true. Also, Jaden Hamilton is saying recommended maybe high school age is good for these kind of movies to be shown. What you were saying, Zax, about like Band of Brothers, I totally agree. That series is amazing. I've not finished watching The Pacific. I started that a while back, but I need to go back to it. But yeah, something like this, you wonder, don't you? Do you think public schools in Canada, UK, the States would even show something like this these days?
I don't think so, and I think that's too bad, and I think that's why it's kind of on us to do that.
Yeah.
Because the generations have passed away now. The people who were involved in this and survived this and then have lived on, they're mostly gone. And so if we don't show our kids these things and explain them to them, they'll forget. And you can't let these things be forgotten about.
That's
And
right. Go for it,
I want to
Zax, go
say
for it.
too, I think you'll be impressed if you do show this to kids, not young kids, high school age kids, obviously, but uh, that the response is they really do get it, and they can internalize what they're seeing and understand. Like they do seem to, it seems to give them some more respect for veterans, their elders, and what they have now.
Jaden Hamilton saying he's currently watching Band of Brothers. That's probably down to you and your shorts, Zax. It's
Maybe.
miles better than Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's and similar. I think it's the same production company to an extent, but
Oh,
yeah, much.
really?
This was it's not even close for me in those two. And Michael
No.
Salo, yeah, not enough representation. It's funny how that works in
I was
these.
going to mention that, Zax. What did you think? You don't really see this is very realistic in that, isn't it? I think we saw one maybe different race soldier right near the end. That kind of stuck in my head because it was Germany against France in 1917, 1918. So
Yeah, yeah, there was. That's what it looked like, and if they would have changed it for this, I know they wouldn't. It would have taken everyone out of the movie.
oh, absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. Where are we? Do they even show the miniseries Roots in American schools anymore? Well, I can't comment on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't, definitely Canada does not.
No.
So
And also, talking about Canada, Zach, can I ask you, the UK, we have the Remembrance Parade, it's called. They do a parade, I think. I don't know if it's on the 11th of November. People buy what's called fake poppies as well, a poppy flower, and then you wear it. You see that in, for example, soccer games, football games, you'll see that, people doing that. Do you have a similar thing in Canada as well?
yeah, we do. It's exact same. It's Remembrance Day. It's the poppy. It's the 11th. We do parades.
Oh,
Most
okay.
government things are closed for the day. Schools are closed. Um, and they usually the day before the schools will often do like some kind of a Remembrance Day event. So that's good that they do still have that. And there was a Canadian hockey Don Cherry, maybe you heard of him. He got he was upset that he didn't see enough poppies on people who had just recently moved to Canada, and that they didn't understand like the history of why that it was important to wear them and show support for veterans and all that. And so he got fired for saying that.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy times.
Yeah. Interesting.
Shieldwall saying that's going back to Band of Brothers. It's because Band of Brothers is based on real historical people. Yeah, that's right, and events. Saving Private Ryan is just a made-up story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. And Michael Sallow gets it. He knows who Grapes is.
Grapes.
Don
That's
Cherry's
over my
nickname is
head.
Grapes. His nickname is Grapes.
Jay Deep Minded. Also, Clint Eastwood's two films, Flags of Our Fathers and The Letters from Iwo Jima. Two perspectives on one action in the Pacific. Yeah, I really I appreciated him doing that. The fact that he told the Japanese side of the story as well. Yeah, but God, I read the book, Zaxx. I don't know if you read that. Based on it's horrible what happened, as we all know. Yeah.
The Pacific. If you watch both of those series, Band of Brothers and Pacific,
Yeah.
I would rather fight in the European theater for sure, even though it was horrible. But the Pacific seems like it's like it has everything and more, everything and mosquitoes. Like,
Oh God, yeah, the mosquitoes and the damp, the humidity. That must have been horrible. I live in Japan. It's not as bad as I guess parts of where it was fought, but oh God, yeah. Listen to me complaining about that now.
what do they teach in Japan about World War II? Or do they?
That's a good question. I don't know, to be honest. I know I work in public schools, but with me being focused on English, that's a really good question and something I will check up on. I've seen some of the history textbooks in junior high school. I don't know about high school, so that's where I'm kind of focused, ages 13 to 15. So they do talk about it. They teach about parts of it. I don't know if they talk about how bad Japan was back then, how radical, how militarized it was, but yeah, interesting. Good point.
Curious, yeah.
Great comment here from Jaden. He says, as a young man, respect his ancestors for what they sacrificed in these wars. In a way, I feel I must repay them. I want to join the military after my education. I just hope it's the right choice one day. Wow, respect, mate, respect.
I mean, I think that it's not a bad idea for anyone to do some military service. I didn't do it, so I can't speak as someone who has. But I don't. I never think it's the wrong choice. I would say that.
That's something my father always used to say, Zaxx. He it's like old man talking, I know, but he said they should never have stopped military service. Some countries, of course, still do it, but they should have kept that going.
And what's interesting, it's a good point, because I've met people who I know who I'm friends with who've moved to Canada from other countries where they do have that mandatory service at a certain age, and they've gone through it, and they have nothing but good things to say about it. They have friends forever from it. Like, you're tight for always. And one of them, she married one of the other soldiers in her group and from Israel, and so they, it's always positive, and it brings you it takes people who are like different and kind of puts you together into a national identity, and you have a shared experience. Like, you overcome something together, which helps you relate to other people. Whereas now everything's separate and work from home, go to school from home, and then hate each other. You don't have that uniting event here.
That's a great point. Yeah. We don't have it in Japan, of course, because as you know, Japan's not allowed to have an army. They have a self-defense force, as it's called. But Korea, the neighboring country, I'm talking about the mainland, South Korea, they still have it. I don't know if you heard the news. This is quite recent. The K-pop band BTS, they have not split up, but they've paused their career because they have to do, I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2 years military service.
And I've seen that too from UFC fighters. They'll have to go and they have to go and do the service as well from Korea, and they go do that too. And then I don't know if they still do it in Finland, but and some of the Norwegian areas, but they used to do it to the point where, like, where I'm from, Timo Solanyi's a famous hockey player, and he couldn't come to Canada to play hockey because he had to do his military service first. And but you never meet a nicer, guy, and they could avoid it, but they don't, and that tells me that it's not a bad thing overall.
That's it, Daniel. Thank you. I was getting the wrong word. In the UK, yeah, we call it national service. It should be required, he says, even if it isn't strictly military. Yeah, for sure. There's the
like
Coast
that term.
Guard and other guards. Yeah, definitely, I agree. That's a
Yep.
great point. Okay, Zaxx, I'm not going to go on to too much longer. It's I'm trying to keep it to just over an hour now. So, are we good? Is there anything you want to sum up at the end?
No, but we have some other suggestions in the chat. So, Hacksaw Ridge, I have not seen that, so I know I've heard so many good things. I have to see that. We got Derek Brickett here with his top 5 war movies: Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter, which, of course, we've seen those. Full Metal Jacket, Saving Private Ryan, and All Quiet. So, I'm assuming he's referring to the 30s version. But there's no shortage of amazing war films and from the different time periods, and we got a rush of them from Vietnam War in that with the Platoon, Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Hamburger Hill, I think all kind of at the same time. So
Oh God, Hamburger Hill is a great one. Yeah, really, very very hard to watch as well. That's a good one. There's an Australian one. I can't remember the name top of my head now that I saw recently. It tells the Australian story of the Vietnam War.
Really?
Yeah, the were soldiers who served in that. It was very good. God, if you can let me know in the chat, that'd be awesome. I could quickly chat, but yeah, great choices there, Derek. Really good.
Yeah.
I love The Deer Hunter. I think that's an incredible movie. Incredible. Of course, Apocalypse Now, that's one of my favourites too. Okay, just scrolling through before we finish up. It's been great to see so many people watching, and this is all down to Zaxx. This is Zaxx's pulling power, so I really appreciate it.
This is down to you, Gray. And subscribe to Gray, please, if you haven't already, because he deserves to be at 1,000 subscribers and then some. And he consistently is helping other people out. He makes great content. He reviews comic. He brightens my morning every morning. I watch Gray stuff. I do in the morning because he does a comic review, and I watch the comic review of a comic book I'm never going to read.
Yeah.
But he's so happy, and he's has that spark, and it gets you going. So yeah, please go sub to Gray if you haven't already.
I'm kind of lucky in a way that's because I review things that I like, but if something's rubbish, if it's crap, I will call it out. I will say so, and that's why I'm not covering much from the big two from Marvel and DC. I'm just sticking with Batman because I'm a long-term Batman fan, and I've got back into Amazing Spider-Man recently, which is very interesting, shall we say, at the moment. But then I think they're two of the best written out of all the DC and Marvel titles. I'd much rather focus on independent comics like the Spawn titles from Image, things like that. But yeah, I don't want to go off on a waffle. Here we go. So, yes, great suggestions in the chat. Thin Red Line, another one. That's a good one. What are you laughing at? Is it Nosferatu? What are you doing?
See.
Let me get down to it. Pattern from Shelby, AC. That's a good one. Enemy at the Gates, Daniel, another good one. God, there are so many, aren't there, Zaxx? What's interesting is thinking me in Japan, I haven't watched hardly any films about the war from a Japanese perspective, apart from there's a really harrowing animation. I think it's called The Grave of the Fireflies. It shows a bit of the firebombing of Tokyo and a little bit of that. So yeah, but I haven't seen any live action apart from Letters from Iwo Jima, the Clint Eastwood one.
Which was American. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, where are we? Doc Vader. Japan's Longest Day. I'll look for it. Yeah, I will seek them out. Stop wasting my time watching ridiculous Marvel content, which I'm not anymore.
I'm giving up on it too, and it feels good.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. The positivity is important. I think that's why I'm not doing so well, though. I'm too positive.
So subscribe to Grace so we can stay positive, for the love of God. And Nosferatu, you skipped him. But I'm not going to let you. He says, I feel the same way. He's so pure and innocent that he vicariously hurts my feelings.
Oh, God. Yeah. Nos is a great friend. Well, I appreciate your hard work as well, Nos. I know you helped me out with the moderating. He's a big fan of a channel called Sleazy P. Martini, which I recommend for complete madness and chaos. I can't believe he's still on YouTube. Actually, he might have been taken down. I'm not sure, but always worth a watch on a Saturday night. Where are we? Frank, great to hear from you. Frank Salinas says he loves watching my Spawn reviews. Thank you. That's because Spawn is so good at the moment.
And affordable.
So, Zaxx, before we finish, please shout out whatever you've got coming up or what you're working on at the moment.
I've recorded my review of episode 4 Peripheral. I just have to lay the video over top of it, so that'll be out hopefully soon, tonight, tomorrow for sure. It's got to get out soon because if not, it's irrelevant. And live stream Wednesday, at 8 o'clock this week, so it's an hour earlier than last week. And got Michelle from Force of Lights coming on, and Max for sure. Max from Priestley. Not sure exactly who else I'm going to have on, but we're going to be talking about action heroes, both actors, actresses, and the characters they play, and what's good action heroes. I have a feeling Michelle's going to talk about Gina, but not sure.
Oh, okay. That sounds very interesting. Now, hopefully I can catch that. If I can't catch it live because I'm usually working, daytime for me is nights in the States and Canada, I'll catch it on the replay. Batman 128 soon. Failsafe. Yeah, thanks, Derek. Looking forward to it. It is doing very well, and I've just ruined Nosferatu's in the evening by the sound of it.
Oh, no.
Sleazy has been nuked, Gray. Thanks for making me depressed. I know he does stuff on BitChute as well, I think, and I'm not sure about Rumble. Okay, Zaxx, there we go. So, it just leaves me to say thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's night time for you. It's been great
Anytime,
talking.
Gray.
Anytime, I appreciate that. I've wanted to do a solo stream with you for a long time. Now, after this finishes, let's go out for a drink together, eh? Have a date
let's
night.
do it. Let's do it.
That would be awesome. I wish I could. One day I hope to get to the States. I hope to get to Canada one day. You never know if we're allowed to travel again from Japan. No, I'm just kidding. It's still kind of strict over here. It's a bit ridiculous.
Before you go, Gray does a show now Friday nights, right? Is it every Friday you're going to be doing it?
Oh yeah, that's right.
What's your show?
Do you reckon I should change the times? That's because I do it 1 p.m. my time, which is now changed. It used to be 11 p.m. Central. It'll probably be 10 p.m. Central now. Should I go keep it 11 p.m.? It's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would probably keep it 11 p.m. if I were you.
Yeah, that'd be good for me because that'd be 2 p.m. my time, which gives me a little bit more time to jiu-jitsu in the morning and get back and get ready.
There you go.
So, thank you very much, Derek. Great stream. I'm sorry I'm not in the best condition today. Zaxx, you've ruled this stream, brother. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me on. And thanks, chat, because you guys are an important part of the show. So we're also just me talking to Gray.
Yeah, if it wasn't for you, it'd just be me and Zaxx talking nonsense to each other about, Zaxx's huge shoulders and my tiny little skeletal frame.
He's taller, though.
Sorry, Zaxx, we need to get you to 30,000 subs. That's true, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, on that note, thanks to the chat, thanks to Zaxx, thanks to the Belgian beer last night for kind of blowing my mind, almost killing me. It's weird, Zaxx, I've not had as bad a hangover as I expected, which kind of worries me about what's going to happen tonight or maybe tomorrow. Maybe it's going to hit me tomorrow morning.
Powerade.
When you wake up and you still feel like drunk, it was one of those. Powerade's the way to go. Nosferatu was recommending lots of sodium, lots of salt, and lots of water, of course. I've been knocking back the water this morning. Okay, there we go. So, that's it, Phil. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in a future video. This is Gray from Wakizashi's Tea House. Can't even say it. This is Zaxx from Zaxx's channel. And we hope to see you very soon. Matane.
Bye.
Wakizashi's Tea House. Please subscribe.